Looks like the screen is froze, guys. Can you see me? Oops. There we go. Very good. There you are. Hello, Chad. Hello, Stefan. Thank you guys for joining me today. Just to, good, you're here. Something got stuck for a second. It got froze. Just until we give people more time to come on, everybody to see the link and join us, I figured I would start off talking about something to give you guys an idea of, whenever I talk about things like how the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram is a formula, and that whenever you learn it, you're learning a formula that you can use in a lot of different ways. Well, I wanted to kind of give you an example of one of those ways, what I mean about how you're learning a formula. So, one thing that whenever I did realize it, it was almost like seeing something that I thought, why didn't I realize that all along? Why did that not click into place all along? But you know how I always talk about how all of religion and all of magic, and by magic I mean astrotheurgy, that's what magic with a K is it's all about the stars. Well, whenever we're doing the lesser banishing of the pentagram, or the invoking of the pentagram, or the invoking of the hexagram rituals, we are drawing stars. Just stars. That's it. So it's one of those things, it's like right there, it's so close to you, what you're doing is so close that a lot of times we don't see it. But how I talk about, what I mean by the formula is, how, for example, whenever you're inhaling and you inhale light, you fill the earth up with light beneath your feet, and then you step forward and you draw the pentagrams, on each of the four sides, and you connect them by this white light. And then you start doing this invocation where you have Raphael before you, and Gabriel behind you, Michael on your right hand, and Uriel on your left hand. Well, this is the Sumerian version of that. This is this is what I do now, and it uses the same formula that you learn when you're doing the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, except you can do this in one of two ways. For example, instead of drawing the star, using the sword mudra, whenever you inhale and you draw the pentagrams, instead of the pentagrams, you draw this. This is the ancient Sumerian cuneiform. It means both star and god. All of the gods in the Sumerian pantheon, whenever you're talking about Enlil or Enki or Inanna or Ninhursag, Shamash, Utu, whoever it is, all of their names began with this symbol. And not only did the names of the gods begin with this symbol, but so did the names of the kings who were seen to have completed the great work. For example, when you go to the Met, they actually have bricks at the Met from the city of Babylon. And one of the reasons I'll get back to that in just a second. One of the reasons that they have these bricks on display is to show every brick in Babylon had engraved into it cuneiform that said Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, guardian of the temple. And you can see this like right there at the Met. It's kind of amazing. It's one of those things that when you're standing there in front of it, looking at it, you kind of can't believe what you're looking at, that you're standing this close to something that has, come all the way through history, to times that to us are like myths or legends, that these people actually touch these things. But at any rate, like I said, it says Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, guardian of the temple. But the very first symbol of Nebuchadnezzar is this. So what you would do, you can do it in one of two ways. One is you only use this symbol. Now here's the thing: when you, the general rule for invoking or banishing is if you're invoking, you always draw whatever you're drawing clockwise. So whenever you're drawing this, you begin with the top, and then the side, and just to the best of your ability, you keep it so that you're drawing in a clockwise fashion. To banish, we draw counterclockwise most of the time. So you would do the same thing, only you would go draw it going the opposite direction, going like this instead of going around, making it in a clockwise way, depending on whether you're wanting to invoke or wanting to banish. But what I mean by the two different ways, so for example, you would just draw this, like if I were doing it, I just like inhale, and I'll do it several times. Like I'll probably inhale like 10 times, and each time I see the earth getting filled with more and more light. Whenever I exhale, the light stays, even when the air goes out, the energy stays in, the light stays in. So then I'll just draw, like this. And then you do the same thing that you do whenever you charge the pentagram. You know how you inhale into the earth, fill the earth up with light, and thrust the sword mudra through the center of the pentagram, allowing all of that energy to rush back up through you and see the pentagram, glow as bright as you can make it glow. You do the same thing with this. You inhale, fill the earth up with light, thrust the sword mudra right into the center of the symbol, and you vibrate depending on the energy that you're wanting to invoke. So say for example you're wanting to invoke solar energy. You're wanting to do some sort of, you're wanting to bring in energy to use to manifest something or to ingest for spiritual sustenance, whatever it is you're wanting to do solar energy. You could vibrate the name Shamash, who was the Sumerian god of the sun. Or you could vibrate Enlil. You could vibrate Enki. You could vibrate Inanna. And you vibrate it and you see the symbol vibrate, not your body. You don't want to feel your body vibrate. You want to see and feel the symbol vibrate. And as you're vibrating it, you want it to glow as bright as you can possibly make it glow. Then you do the same thing. Just continue the exact process like you're doing when you're doing the lesser banishing, where you inhale and fill the earth and draw a white line connecting this first one in the east, go around to the southern part of your circle. Again, do the same thing, go through the same process, drawing it again. So at the end of this, you're standing in the middle of a circle, a circle of white light, and you've got this in either like a flaming blue color, just like the pentagrams, or you can also do it in white. You're standing in the middle of those. What you can, or before I go on, let me tell you the other way, what I mean about there's two ways to do this. The other way would be to do like you normally do in the pentagram rituals, where you draw either the blue pentagram or you draw the gold hexagrams, and then you draw this symbol, and do that like you would normally do it, like charge the pentagram with whatever word, whatever mantra, whatever name would normally go with the energy of whatever you're trying to invoke. And then you draw this in the middle of, you draw it inside the pentagram, in the open space in the middle of it. You draw that inside and then charge this symbol again, separate from the pentagram. You charge the pentagram first, charge this symbol second. What you're doing when you're doing that is kind of adding twice the amount of energy, twice the amount of power to the process. But going ahead, and I saw a really interesting question a while ago, and we'll get to that in just a second. But then how you in the lesser banishing rituals, how you vibrate the names of the archangels around you. Raphael before me, Gabriel behind me, Michael right hand, Uriel left hand. The Sumerian version of that, you would say Anu before me, Inanna behind me, Enlil on my right hand, Enki on my left hand. You are invoking 4 of the main 7 deities of ancient Sumer. And you know, it's pretty much the exact what the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram is like a very very much more modern, you know, a version that only goes back to probably the Middle Ages or so of this ancient Sumerian ritual. The Sumerian version would have been the original version. This is what people would have been doing. Um, one more thing. When I posted the writing today, a couple of people had questions. They were talking about they don't understand uh, why I'm talking about Enlil. They're saying, you know, for example, um, that in the Sumerian stories, Enki seemed to be the one that had the greater love for mankind because every time Enlil visited some sort of devastation on humanity, it was Enki who tried to save them. You know, for example, in the Sumerian version of the flood story, you know, the story of Noah in the Bible, Noah and the flood, in the precursor to that story, in the ancient Sumerian tablets, like in the Judaic version, God says there's going to be this flood, and then God tells Noah, build an ark and get ready. In the ancient Sumerian version, you've got two different gods in play. You've got Enlil saying, I am going to send this massive flood. And you've got Enki who doesn't want to see all of mankind perish. So he goes to one particular man, and he has different names like Atrahasis, and you know there's a few others, but it's the same figure that we're talking about in the Noah stories. It's Enki who tells the original Noah to build an ark because Enlil is going to send this massive catastrophic flood. So my point, what we're looking at when we're looking at Enki and Enlil, you know, people and a lot of this is due to those alien shows. You know, I gotta say, I those things have set magic so far back. Those ancient alien type things where you know people are talking about they came on spaceships and all that kind of stuff. They've also not only that, but they've also sort of created this scenario where you've got these two gods who are at odds with each other. You know, like Enki and Enlil became God and the devil and Christianity, and that's not actually what it looks like when you're looking at it from a magical perspective. What you're looking at is, you know how when you're looking at the tree of life, on one side you've got the pillar of severity, and on the other side you've got the pillar of mercy. Enlil is the pillar of severity. That's why he was a god of judgment. Enki is the pillar of mercy. That's why in the old Sumerian stories he saves mankind. Even when Enlil decides there's no hope for him, wipe him out, it's the compassionate part. The thing is, you cannot succeed at the great work without incorporating and working with and mastering both of these energies. If you only work with the pillar of severity with Enlil, it leads to being really brittle, judgmental, harsh. If you only, you know, that's the pillar of mercy. I'm sorry, the pillar of severity. If you only work with the pillar of mercy, if you only work with Enki, then it leads to no self-discipline. It leads to turning into mush. You know, just degenerating because you don't have the discipline and commitment or anything else to be able to keep making progress. You have to have both of these energies. Both. You either one or the other by themselves is doomed to failure. And just like somebody just said in the comments, this is exactly yin and yang. They have to be balanced. Or, you know, it's the pillar of severity and the pillar of mercy. They are both equal aspects of the tree of life. Neither side is more important than the other. And I'm going to look back through the questions just because I saw one while ago. Yes, exactly. Someone said, so essentially the process is the same, but the names and symbols are interchangeable. Yes, exactly. That's what I mean by how it's a formula. Like you take this formula that you can use, that you're learning when you do the lesser banishing, and you're using, you know, like Judaic and Hebrew terminology and you know, concepts familiar to them. You do the exact same thing, only with the Sumerian stuff. Oh, someone says, why don't we make symbols above and below us, or can we? Yes, you absolutely can, and I do. This is a really good question, and this is also one of the things, one of the rituals that you learn in the first order of magic is the rose cross ritual. And it's sort of like the pentagram and hexagram rituals, only you're using gold crosses with red circles of light around the center of them. But not only do you do those in four corners, but you also draw these crosses above you and below you. But this is also part of the pentagram rituals, and most people don't realize this just because they've been I don't know how this got started, but people will say, like, after you've invoked the angels around you, and you'll say, for about me flame the pentagrams, and you just sort of see all four pentagrams glowing as bright as you can. Then you say, some traditions say, and within me shines the six-rayed star. That's actually not what I use, and it's not sort of what they're using in the AA. What's taught in the AA is you say, and within the column shines the six-rayed star. What that means, when you have created the circle of pentagrams and light around yourself, that's the column. You are standing in the middle of the column. So when you say within the column shines the six-rayed star, you keep your eyes closed and you envision above you on the ceiling is a golden hexagram, and below you on the floor is a golden hexagram. So, when other people do it, other traditions where they say, and within me shine the six-rayed star, what they usually do is visualize the six-rayed star of, like, what we call the Star of David, the star made out of two hexagrams. They'll picture it right in the middle of their chest, like inside their body, and the upward pointing triangle will be red, and the downward pointing triangle will be blue. What that symbolizes is like the unity of fire and water, of masculine and feminine elements. Once again, the union of opposites. When they say, within me shines the six-rayed star, they're visualizing the union of opposites within themselves, which is a powerful ritual. But for me, honestly, the thing that I found by far the most powerful is the other version where you say within the column shines the six-rayed star and envision a hexagram. So then you've got pentagrams all around you and you've got hexagrams above you and below you, so that you are completely encased by these energies. Let me look through your questions again. Okay, this is a really good question. Riley Howell says, egregores, to my understanding, are created by our thoughts and energy. So how is Enlil an egregore, and how did they create us out of their image? Who creates who? Ha ha. That's a really good question, and it's something that people have went back and forth with no consensus agreement on since the dawn of humanity. Some people say that we made these gods. We created these things. We gave them names. We fed them energy through rituals. We created them so that they could then help us. We created the gods that we then draw upon in order to further the evolution not only of ourselves, but also of civilization. So some people tell you that the gods are basically batteries. That these gods, no matter what these stories say, they did not create us. That they may have created us in their image, meaning they shaped us, but our actual creation existed before they began to interact with us. That we came from the same place that they initially arose out of, which is, the only way I can kind of articulate it is think of this infinite pool of energy from which that everything came out of, everything arose from. That's the source of creation. This infinite energy with no boundaries, no qualities, no characteristics. Even these gods that we are talking about, these egregores, these archangels, whatever you want to call them, even they came from that. that they did not create, yes, source consciousness, that these things did not create us. They just created us in their image. They shaped us to be like them, to follow these paths that they, the Big Bang, that's another word. Some people use that. The Big Bang is the beginning of the material world that, as it springs forth from that source. However, some people believe that we did not create these things, and this is one of those things that is, it's almost like which came first, the chicken or the egg. Just because you will experience things in the beginning that may almost even seem, I'll just tell you, one time I asked someone, I asked someone that I consider to be very wise when it comes to this stuff, to these techniques. I asked him, I said, when you're looking at these rituals, when you're looking at these pentagram rituals and these hexagram rituals and this rose cross ritual and the analysis of the keyword and the supreme invoking ritual of the pentagram and the watchtower, the Enochian watchtower rituals, I say it becomes obvious that we didn't make this up. These are far too specific, intricate, and ingeniously powerful. It becomes obvious that this isn't something that we just willy-nilly threw together, or that we sort of mastered over time. You come to see that you just start to realize, the only way I can describe it is that you start to realize we got this from somewhere. Something, somehow or another, we came into contact with something that gave this to us. So I ask this guy, where do you think we got this? Where do you think these rituals came from? Who gave them to us? He said that at one point, and this is a question that most people don't even think to ask until they've been doing magic for years and years, way down the road. Most people just automatically assume, I don't know what, that we created these or that we developed them slowly over time. It doesn't really occur to people until years down the road to wonder, where did this come from? So I asked this guy, I said, where do you think it came from? He said he asked his teacher, and his teacher is someone that is beyond either of our understandings. This is literally a master. He said, I asked him at one point, where did we get this? And the only thing his teacher said was, so whatever that means. If that helps you or if that confuses you even more, yes, in a lot of ways it seems like we did indeed create these things, these egregores, but in other ways it seems like we definitely got these techniques from somewhere else. Somebody says, since the subject came up, what do you think about aliens? Are we being visited, or are they spiritual entities? First off, I just got to say, I don't know why this is the case, but it is the case. The more you do magic and the more you start to develop and move along this path, the less you care about things like that. Most people, whenever they come to magic, honestly, most people, the reason they first want to learn about magic is because they have an interest in things that lie outside of normal daily life interests. Like people are interested in hauntings or aliens, life on other planets or whatever it is. The more you progress along this path, the less you will care about any of that stuff. It just becomes like, silly distractions that mean kind of nothing to you. They don't, I don't know how to describe it. It's like a veil lifts or something. So the thing about aliens is, whether they're there, whether they're not, I honestly don't care either way as long as they leave me alone. That's kind of how I've always looked at it. As long as they're minding their business and I'm minding mine, they could be there, they could not be there. Like a friend of mine once said, it doesn't affect my immortality one way or the other. Okay, let me look through and find another question. Someone says, if time exists, if time, yes, ask them yourself. First, let me address that. Joshua says, ask them yourself. Yes, absolutely. That's one of the reasons that magicians do not try to convert or convince other people. It's like, I'm not here to convince you that I'm telling you the truth. I'm not here to convince you to believe anything. All I'm trying to do is give you a set of practices and techniques that worked for me, that allowed me to obtain certain firsthand direct experience. I'm trying to pass those on to other people so that if they're interested in doing so, they can try them for themselves and experience the same things that I experienced. Or maybe experience something different. Try it and see. Let me look through. There was another question. Oh, yes. If time exists all at once, can egregores in the future, can they have affected us in the past? Absolutely. This is one of those things that's kind of amazing about magic. It's one of the paths where magic and science intersect or cross each other. Is my brain just went blank. What was the question? I'm going to look back and say, the timing. Yes. So, we know that there's no such thing truly as in the higher dimensions of reality. Quantum physics tells us now that time doesn't really exist, that it's kind of an illusion. So yes, just there's no reason why you can manifest something in the future and not in the past, because the future is no more real, is no more solid, is no more substantial than the past is. Both of them are just different reference points in what we on the physical level of reality perceive as this time stream. I've done things in the past to affect the present. Like for example, one of the things that I would do when I was learning astral projection is, how normally whenever people are trying to do some sort of healing ritual, to heal themselves from something, they will focus on the future, like creating an image in the future of themselves as healthy and whole and all of that sort of thing. You can also instead go back to the past to where whatever happened that, for example, for me, what it was I was severely beaten by prison guards at one point, to the point that I started pissing blood. I mean, they messed me up really bad. And I suffered consequences. I suffered physical consequences from that for years afterwards. I had a lot of physical pain from that. So what I focused on doing, not only did I focus on an image of myself in the future that was healthy and whole, but I would also focus on shifting my awareness back to the time whenever it was happening and giving myself healing energy even while it was happening, so that I was kind of counterbalancing some of the trauma and everything else that took place. For some, I can't explain to you exactly how all of this works, because like I said, I have a 9th grade education. I do not completely understand quantum physics. All I can tell you is things that I've done and tell you how I've done them so that you can kind of mimic them and see for yourself. But a lot of it, I can give you what I did and tell you what it did for me, but I can't tell you exactly why it works, because I'm not a quantum physicist. Somebody said, would that work with chronic illnesses or pain? It did for me. For me, one of the big things that I was wrestling with was they had hit me in the face a lot, and it had caused a lot of nerve damage in my teeth, and my teeth were hurting all the time. Every day. It made my life a living hell. So it helped me with chronic pain. All right, guys, I might not go an hour today just because I want to do some more, maybe even tomorrow if y'all are up to it. And I don't want to make this so long that people don't want to watch it. I know a lot of times when if even if it's a subject I'm interested in on, YouTube or whatever it is, if I click on it and I see that it's an hour long, I'll think, yeah, I'm not watching that. But if it's 30 minutes long, it's a little more manageable, a little more palatable, a little more bite size. That's why I've always liked to do like the 10-minute long videos. But I mean, 30 minutes to me doing this, talking to you guys and reading your questions and everything, I actually really enjoy this. This is fun to me, so I want to do it again tomorrow. Let's do it tomorrow at the same time. What I'll probably do tomorrow, though, is I'll go up to the next pledge level. Like right now, we're at the second level, I think, or the third level. I'm not sure. So tomorrow I'll go up one, and if you guys want to join me there, I'll post the link on the next level, and we will pick up. Somebody says we're watching 10-hour videos over here. Would you ever consider leading a ritual via live chat? I probably wouldn't, no. Maybe meditation at some point. But the thing about the ritual is I would have to have someone to follow me around with the camera while I was doing it. And it would also be, that's one of those things I don't know. I'm just really uncomfortable with that a lot of times. To me, when you're doing your ritual work and you start doing it in ways that are uniquely personal to you, it's almost like, I don't know. It's just really, really personal. I had a friend one time who described it. He said he doesn't let anybody see him do his rituals because to him it would be the equivalent of showing somebody naked pictures of his wife. And it kind of is an intimacy that's on that level. However, maybe meditation or something in the future. I wouldn't be opposed to doing that. Okay, guys, I'm going to cut this off. I love you guys. Thank you for bearing with me. Thank you for making the book launch amazing. It has so far surpassed every expectation or every hope that I had for it. I mean, everybody has been really, really receptive and just really complimentary. Everybody's really loved it. They say it's a beautiful book. So thank you guys for all that. Oh, while I'm thinking of it, if you wouldn't mind and if you have a couple of minutes, would you leave a review for it on Amazon? That really does help like boost your sales and get the word out to people. The more people that review it and the higher your review rating is, that does help you reach more people. So if you guys wouldn't mind writing a review for especially Angels and Archangels, because I think it's only got one review right now. But also if you have double time, then also one for High Magic if you haven't already. Okay, guys, I will talk to you back tomorrow on the next pledge level. I love you guys and see you here. Bye-bye.